10.3, which are constructions with se. So if you remember all the way back to chapter 7, that's when you first learned what the word se meant, and you used it with reflexive verbs, things that one does to him or herself. The yo form is me, the tu form is te, etc. Okay. Now we're going to see se again, but it's got a completely different function. So follow along this PowerPoint with me. I'll try to make it brief, and then I'll give you some practice in the next video. Okay. So we're not talking about reflexive verbs here. Okay. Se is going to be used in this context for impersonal situations. Okay. For example, if I say, se habla español. I'm sure you've seen this phrase if you look here at the screen all over. We translate that to mean Spanish is spoken. Not that I speak Spanish or you speak Spanish, but impersonal, in general, Spanish is spoken here. Okay? If you notice down at this example here, se hacen operaciones aquí. That means operations are performed here. Again, even though it's translated as they perform operations, we're not talking about they. We're just saying this is what's going on here. In English, we say they. In Spanish, it's more impersonal. So you learn this actually at the beginning of Spanish when you learn como se dice. That little se dice is actually saying how is it said, not literally how do you say. That would be personal, and this is impersonal. So let's look at the next slide here. So this is always going to be done in the third person because it's going to be one can or they can. Okay. Se vende ropa. Look how ropa is singular, so it's going to be the third person of the verb. So clothes are sold. Whereas here you'll see shirts are sold. Since shirts are plural, it matches with se venden. So you'll see this oftentimes in signage because we're not directing one specific person. You can't walk here. We're saying one can't walk here. It's also a little more kind. So, se prohíbe nadar. Swimming is prohibited. Swimming is one thing, so we used the singular. Here, programmers are needed because this is plural. We made necesitan conjugated for the third person plural. Okay, and my face keeps covering up stuff. So, se entra por la izquierda here. One enters to the left. I wouldn't conjugate tu entras por la izquierda, right? Sorry. Okay. Let's look at another example. Okay. In this slide, we are doing a different structure with se. Okay. For example, if you see this, she's saying, "Did you put on a sweater last night?" And she says, "No, Mom, I forgot." Well, if we were conjugating the way you all had learned how, olvidar would be olvidé, haste o. Right? But do you notice how she said olvido, like he or she? So what you're doing with this are things that you don't do on purpose. And I alluded to this at the beginning of this chapter with things like breaking an arm or twisting an ankle. You don't do those things on purpose. You don't forget something on purpose. Right? Well, you shouldn't. So she's saying it got forgotten to me, and that's how this works as well. So let's look at this example here. So look at this. You start with se, then your indirect object pronoun, meaning that's who it happened to, right? Then the verb, and then the subject. So the verb will be conjugated for the thing, third person, or the things, plural third person, that happened. So if I forgot my homework, it would be se. Then who did it happen to? Me. Olvidó la tarea. I'm conjugating the olvidó for the homework because it actually forgot itself to me. It wasn't my fault. It's a great way to shift blame. Okay. So let's look at this. Se, that means it's not your fault. Then the object, or the indirect object pronoun. So who did it happen to? Some verb examples that happened in the past with the third person singular, and some examples, and then the third person and some examples of some plural subjects. So let's look at this. Follow my cursor if you can. Se nos rompieron las botellas. So the bottles got broken and that happened to us. We broke them, but we're not going to say we did the breaking. Not rompimos. We didn't mean to. Se nos rompieron. Just happened, right? Or I dropped the glass, right? I didn't mean to. Se me cayó la taza, right? This thing will always match this conjugation This is who it happened to. Stick a say in front of it. Means it wasn't your fault. Didn't mean to. Complete accident. So here are some verbs on this slide that you also had on your vocab sheet where it's common to use this structure because they're things that you wouldn't do on purpose, like dropping something, falling, damaging or breaking down, forgetting, losing, quedar, to be left behind, or to break, romper, right? Look at these examples. Se me perdió el teléfono de la farmacia. I don't have the phone numbers, the pharmacy's phone number, right? It got lost. It got lost. The phone number did, right? Or the tickets. I forgot them. We forgot them, right? So we're saying it's the tickets' fault, right? They forgot themselves. To whom or for whom? To us, right? I'll give you some practice in the next video.